Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how to IGL in CS2. The first thing that we're going to go into is the qualities that you need in order to be an IGL. IGL in CS2 and CS in general is a bit more of a different role, and you actually need personal qualities that you usually don't need in other roles, or you don't really need in general except if you're an IGL. So a quality that you need as an IGL is to be decisive and to be confident in yourself, because you need to make a call almost every round. Sometimes your teammates are going to come up with some things that can help you or they can make a call for you, but most of the time you're going to be the one calling, so you have to be decisive in what you want to call. So you cannot just have three things in your mind and you say maybe we should do this, but if this happens then maybe we can do this. There's not that many maybes in one sentence of an IGL. When you're an IGL you have to say the thing and not be like maybe, could be. No, the thing is, we play 1-3-1 default, and then late round, if everything goes to plan, we go B. That's the call. It's not, okay, maybe we can go for 1-3-1 now, and let's see what happens on mid, and maybe we can do some execute later on. Like, that's too many maybes for an IGL. You don't really say that much maybe, and you don't really doubt yourself that much, because if you doubt yourself, how can your teammates trust you? Another quality that you need is to be a leader and be good with people, so basically social skills or people skills, however you want to call them. So when your teammate says that he sees a weakness on A and he thinks we should go A now and we should execute on 135, but you have a different read and you think if you take mid and then split B you're going to win the round. In that moment you say no, we are not going to go A, we're going to take mid and we're going to split B because that's what's going to win us the round. You don't go into what he thinks if you have a better idea. If you trust your own idea and you think your idea is going to win you the round, you don't go for what your teammates said. You have to be confident in yourself again, and you have to be the leader, because your teammate is not the leader, you are the leader if you're in the IGL. So your word matters the most and you decide what you have to do after all. If you like his idea more than yours, then you can go for it, but if you don't, then don't just try to be a nice guy and go for that. And also, you have to be a leader, you have to take initiative outside of the game as well. If you see somebody is not playing that much, if you see somebody is individually struggling, you have to go and talk to him. Nobody else is going to do it. You have to be the one who's going to go and talk to him and ask him what the problem is, what is he doing his aim practice, is he playing that much. You have to ask him if he is doing the things that he should be doing, because nobody else is going to do it. You have to do it as a leader. You have to take the responsibility and go to the player and just try to talk to him, because the opener is not going to do it, the lurker is not going to do it. That's not their job, it's your job. And you also have to have the good social skills to basically have the presence and make sure that you are the one who is being listened to. So when you go into practice and there's people just throwing nades and whatever, you have to not just wait for them to throw nades and just hope that they join spectator and say, okay guys, stop throwing nades, listen to me now. Everyone join a spectator and I'm going to explain something. That's what you say. You don't wait for them to finish their lineups or something. And if one guy says, I'm trying to do the top con smoke because I forgot the lineup, you tell him, you don't need to do that, join spectator, you'll find the lineup later. That's it. Like, you have to have the social skills and the leadership quality to just tell them what they need to do. Don't be a nice guy all the time. You have to tell people what to do sometimes. When they're doing the wrong thing, when they're just not listening, you have to make sure to tell them. And also, if you see problems, you have to say it. You cannot just keep quiet. Nobody else is going to say it. If you see a problem, you instantly say it. Look, this is a problem, we cannot do this, you have to do this, or you cannot do that. So you have to say everything that needs to be said. Now let's go a bit more game specific. Now we're going to talk about the calls that you make in the beginning of the round. So let's say you're playing Mirage and you're on the T side, you bought AKs, you bought utility, and you're the one who's going to make the call. Never leave your team without a call. You have to call something. Even if it's a let's do default, then that's still a call, and you have to say that at least, because otherwise people are gonna be like, what are we doing? Should I play default? Should I do something more specific? What should I do? So you have to tell your teammates either what they need to do or just call a default, and you can call different defaults, of course. There's default 131, there's default 221, there's default 311. You have to call what default you want, and the idea behind the different default splits is that you want to finish the round a different way. So you have to understand this. You want to start the round in a different way so you can finish it in a specific way. If you want to finish the round towards A and you don't really think you need mid control on that round, then you have to call either for 2 or 3 people to go A, and they need to know that if you call this, then you're probably planning to go 8 later on, but you have to still tell them. Like you can say, guys, let's do 3-1-1 default and let's make sure to finish A later on. And you can also give an additional instruction to tell the Palace player to not die, so he'll play a bit more passive, like maybe here, and then he's going to maybe move in a little bit towards an angle like there or something, but just not cross here because an orb could be holding him and he could die. And you can tell the 2 around players to wait for the utilities, so let's say there's a molly, there's a nade, there's a smoke. When everything of that is gone, when the smoke has faded, these 2 players know that they need to search if you gave them that instruction, so they need to search, they need to find the queue. So they go and clear the angles. Let's say one guy peeks like this, and there's a guy default, and he doesn't get the Q and he dies. The second guy has to be right here, ready to trade him instantly and get the trade. So you can tell your teammates, even in practice, that if you call 3-1-1 default, you want them to do this, basically. But if you say something else, then they have to do the other thing. So if you tell them, everyone be passive, the pulse player and the ramp players be passive, then your ramp players are not going to search because that's the instruction that you gave them in the game. There should be something that they are going to do by default if you don't tell them anything, and there should be something that if you say something in freeze time, additionally, they have to do that. Another default that you can do is 1-3-1. The default in that case is going to be somebody is going to throw a smoke in window. If they know the instant smokes, they'll throw an instant smoke. If they don't know the instant smokes, they can come into this corner. They're going to aim to the left of this thing, and they're going to hold D and jump through. And that's going to be a window smoke. And you're going to be the one who's going to build the default. You're going to be the one who decides, okay, on our 1-3-1 default, I want us to smoke window. I want the first person who is going mid to mollycon. I want the second person who is going mid to flash like this, and if he has a second flash, I want him to flash like this. After that, I want one person behind boxes and one person towards share, or at some around. Like this is the by default, if you know what I'm saying. So basically you call a default and this is what your teammates are going to do by default. But if you are doing a 1-3-1 default, you could call something else in the default. So you're still playing default, you're doing the things that you would have done otherwise, but this time let's say this guy is going to jump like this and try to fight con. It's still the default, but it's a different from the default, if you understand what I'm saying. It's a bit confusing, but focus on what I'm saying and you'll understand the idea. So you basically decide where you want to put your teammates, and if you don't know where to put your teammates, then you're going to watch guides on the maps from YouTube and you're going to watch demos and you're going to get ideas from there. Something different from defaults that you can do is you can go for a set strat. So if you're the IGL who likes to do more set things and you think that fits your team more, then you call, let's do fast A split. And you in practice already went over this. One guy throws a short smoke, one guy throws a window smoke, this guy goes in powers, another guy is ready to throw the city smoke. On the timing when the mid players ask for a flash, he has to throw the smoke. The mid players have to throw a molotov here, they have to throw a flash here. You know, you make the whole strat and then everyone executes that. So if that's your style of IGLing and you think that fits your team better, you can do that. And of course you cannot be linear, you cannot do only one thing, you cannot always call set strats, you have to do defaults as well, because otherwise it's going to not be that effective. Like if you don't have any map control and you just go for things, at some point you're going to get pushed and your whole strat is over. Like if you're doing a fast A split and one guy decides to just push mid, it's over if he gets one. Even if he gets one, your strat is over because you cannot continue with what you wanted to do because you don't have one flash now, or you don't have one molly and you cannot do the exact thing, so you have to change it. And when somebody gets pushed like that, or if your powers player gets pushed and dies, the round is completely over. So you cannot always do set strats. And you cannot always do defaults as well, because if the enemy finds out you always do 1-3-1, they're going to double push up, skew your ups player, get TV control, and they're going to stack A and just wait for you. That's what's going to happen. So you have to change up the calls, you have to call different things, and you have to call in the different ways. You have to call set strats sometimes, and you have to call defaults sometimes. Don't call only one of the two. And you also should be calling set strats most of the time. So you can call them on gun rounds a lot as well. But when you have Mach 10s or Tech 9s or Glocks, you have to call some strat. Like you cannot really do a default where take mid control with Mach 10s, because how are you going to fight from here to there with a Mach 10 against a rifle? You cannot do it. So you have to call something different, because you cannot play a simple default with weapons like Mach 10 and Tech 9. Now let's talk about mid-rounding. This is a part of IGLing that if you don't master, you are not going to be a great IGL. All of the great IGLs can mid-round call very well, and that's what differentiates them from the other IGLs. So mid-round calling is basically what the name says. In the middle of the round, you make a call which is going to decide how the round ends. So how do you do that? In the early round, you call a default or a set strat. If you call the set strat, there is no mid-rounding, because everyone knows what they're going to do. But if you call the default, then you have to mid-round the default. So let's say you do con control, and you have one guy in con here. And you have powers, you don't know if anyone is in the ramp, and you have ups control. And you know that nobody is under, and you just have a guy holding here or whatever. And you are here and you have a teammate chair or something with an op, let's say. Now is the time for you to make a call, because you already did what you are going to do. You took control of con, you have mid, and you are holding on to the extremities. Now you need to decide what you do, how you finish the round. And here you can either do a set strat, or you can do something on the fly. Now if you're doing something on the fly, you have to be really confident that your teammates know what they're doing. Because if you just go on A split on the fly and you miss a detail, because you cannot say everything in the moment, like you cannot say what every player needs to do. They need to know that they need to be capable themselves. So if you're confident that your teammates are capable of thinking, then you can do that. Then you can just call on the fly. Because if your teammates are capable of thinking, they'll know, okay, we want to go A. I have two teammates mid, I have one in B ups, and I have one powers. So I need to not die. I need to stay here. I need to survive. And when we're ready to go in, I need to throw a jungle smoke so we don't get killed by the jungle guy and we can safely cross into site. And then I can either throw a molotov or I can just butt in like this, because I know that this is the way I should clear it, and then I can go into ramp because I know there is a possibility somebody is in the ramp, because my teammate is paused and he didn't check ramp. You know, that's all the things that your teammate needs to be capable of thinking. If you're confident that your teammates can think like this, you can be confident in your on-the-fly calls and just go on the fly and you don't have to always call executes, and you can just go for your feeling. But if you don't have teammates that are this capable, you need to just have settings that you call. And maybe sometimes the setting is a bit different from what you want to do exactly, but you're still going to do a setting, because if you cannot take 20 seconds to explain to a teammate exactly what he needs to do, unless you already explained it in practice. So if you have a set default or a set strat execute, where you're going to smoke jungle from here, but in this case you want this guy to smoke jungle because it might be a bit faster and it might make you a better timing, but you're not confident enough in your teammate, so you just call the execute. And now he knows that he has to do exactly the thing that you talked about in practice. And how to make the best possible execute or on the fly call is, you have to know where the enemies are. Here's where your teammates come into play a lot. Your B lurk needs to be telling you what the B players use, and your A lurk is going to tell you what the A players use. They have to do that, you have to tell them before the game, look, I want you to tell me what they throw on B. So let's say on B, your B lurk starts synapse, and the enemy throws a deep Molotov. After that they just throw a nade, and then they smoke ups. So what does this mean? The B player has a flash, maybe he even used it in the beginning. Maybe you heard it, maybe you didn't. If you didn't hear it, then you assume he still has a flash. The short player mollied under, you know this from your mid players and from yourself as well, because you probably saw that. You know that he used the flash in the beginning, you know that the A player used the flash in the beginning, and your A player told you the A player mollied a ramp, and then he smoked powers, and then he threw an 8 deep ramp. You have to be able to keep all of this in your mind, and sometimes you're going to forget it, and then just ask, if your B player is called whatever, John, you say, John, what did they use on B? And he's gonna tell you. Like, if you tell your teammates that they need to keep track of this, they'll do it for you. So you're going to ask John what they threw on B, and he's going to tell you they threw molly, smoke, and nade. And then you also know that the mid player threw a molly under, so you know that the mid player or the short player has a smoke, probably a nade, and a flash, so they have some kind of utility on B, and the B anchor could have a flash, so they could kind of do some damage to you and they could kind of stop you, but the A player has no utility. So now I think, okay, then we can do a full execute A. If the enemy has no utility, you can just do a full execute, because it's going to be effective. It's going to just molly them off, it's going to smoke off the rotations, nobody can help them, they have no utility to defend themselves, they cannot extinguish the molly, they have to run into it. If they have nades, they're going to see the smokes flying over, and they're going to throw a molly there, they're going to smoke powers in some way. Like, you know, if you execute into a person who has full utility, it's not going to be the best thing ever. It's not going to be a great experience. You're going to get mollied off, you're going to get smoked off, and you have to wait 30 seconds, and you don't have any smokes anymore, and you have to run into 2 people that are holding you, and you don't have flashes to flash them off, and you don't have mollies to get them out of position, and basically the round is over. So you need to keep track of the utility, and if everyone has full utility on the enemy side, let's say, then you do a pop. What a pop is basically you get as close as possible before showing yourselves, and then you throw a flash and you just jump out. You throw, let's say, 1 or 2 flashes over ups, and your guys just jump out. And after that, then you throw some utility. Like, let's say you throw a smoke like this, and your teammates who are going out, because the enemies, when they hear a flash, they're going to be like, okay, they're going to come B, let me throw a Molotov. But until he gets that Molotov and tries to throw it, your teammate is already doing this. And he has a Molotov in hand and he's dead, and they're not ready for it. That's the point of a pop. But you don't do that against people that have no utility, because it's pointless. Like, you're gonna catch them off, and what? If you did a full execute, you're going to fuck them up if they don't have utility. But if they do have utility and then you do a full execute, then you're going to get blocked. But if you do a pop when they have full utility, you're gonna catch them with nades in their hands. That's why you need to do a pop when they have utility and do a full execute when they don't have utility. Now about the late round should be something that you already planned if you did an execute. So let's say you did an execute, you did default 1-1, you took mid, then you went back and you're executing B, you're doing your B execute called Astralis B or whatever. And you throw smoke like this, maybe you throw one more smoke like this, then you throw 2 flashes over, then your teammate is throwing, like the first guy is running up, the second guy is throwing this, the first guy is throwing this flash, and they just jump out and they run to backside and they clear everything, and then somebody is throwing a molly kitchen door from Valor or whatever, You get the point. Basically, you're execute that you are doing. What else you need to do is, because a lot of teams just do the execute and that's it, and they haven't talked about where they want to plant, they haven't talked about where they want to stay. So what you need to do is, you talk about the execute in practice, and after that you talk about the after plant. The last guy needs to stay in ups. The first guy, if he's still alive, he needs to go around and then he can either go here or he can go into kitchen with a flash from a teammate. The second guy has to go short, let's say, and he can use a smoke there or a molotov there. The third guy is going to have the bomb, he's going to jump out, or not jump out, but first and second guy should jump out through the window, and third guy should go through the balcony, clear this, and be able to trade anyone. And if there's nobody on site and you don't get any fights, you just plant. Because the entrance, if they didn't get fights, that means there's nobody here. And you have to check this, because everyone forgets, but whenever you're able to remember, just check this, just in case, and then plant. Or you can plant for sure. This is what you need to talk about now. You need to talk about, do we want default plant or do we want short plant? You don't just say, on Astralis build it around this utility and we're going. You say also where you want to plant, and after you plant, you need to know where everyone needs to go. Like, you need to tell your teammates that that guy can go into kitchen with a flash, the second guy can go short, or he needs to go short, and then the third guy has to plant the bomb and then go bench, and the fourth player has to stay van, and the fifth player has to stay in ups. You have to call all of these things, or not call them, but talk about them in practice before the actual game. And you can also sometimes call them on the fly. So if you didn't make them on practice before the match started, you call it in the fly, like I want the last guy to stay in ups, one guy to go bench, one guy to go short. Or if you did an execute on the fly, so you said you didn't say let's do Astralis B, you said okay, I'm gonna smoke this, drop me a smoke, and I'm gonna smoke that as well, and I'm gonna flash you out. Then you also need to say okay, now plant default, I'm gonna stay in ups, one guy go short, one guy go bench. Like, you have to call these things to make sure you have a good setup. And also in practice you need to talk about general things in after plants. Let's say you have a rule where you don't push into a position unless you have a teammate with you or you get a flash from a teammate. Or you have a rule that you have to use all your utility in the after plant at some point. You don't want to leave the after plant with a molly and a smoke, as an example. You want to throw the utility that you have and throw it in a reasonable way. Don't just throw it for the point of throwing it, throw something that actually helps you win the after plant. You can just make rules like this and you can talk about simple good positions, like bench is a good position. In front of door here is a position that you can catch the enemies off guard with, they'll probably not check that. Short here can be a good position because you are covered and you can hold short and it's a bit of an off angle. Ups is good to have because if you plant default you can play the 1v1 or the 1v2. Things like this you need to talk about before the game, so you know that you are in the same page on the after plant. The last thing I'm going to talk about is how to get ideas and new things into your team. So the main ways of that is going to be to watch demos from a team perspective. So let's say FaZe and G2 played a match and they played Mirage, and even if you didn't watch the match you can still download the demo and you can look at what both teams did on their T sides. So first G2 start on T side and you watch what they do, and you like a strat where they do a B split from spawn and you just see what they're doing, see which player is doing what and implement that in your team if you like the strat. Or you can watch teams that are lower tier, like let's say tier 2, tier 3, but if somebody tells you that you shouldn't watch tier 1 demos and take strats from tier 1 demos, this guy's a fucking idiot. Like, I said it very rough, but this guy is an idiot for sure. And how do I know this? He's gonna say everything in tier 1 is anti-strat. Bro, if they did a B split that I like, I'm going to do the B split in my own games and it's going to work. It doesn't matter that G2 did it against FaZe, it doesn't mean that it cannot work against a random level 10 team in Prague.com. It's still going to work. Like, if G2 did it, that doesn't mean that you have to do it against FaZe. You can do it against any team. Maybe it is anti-strat because they saw that The strong player plays passive, but that doesn't mean you cannot do it on a scrim of your own, and you cannot do it on an ESEA game of your own. Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course it can work. You have to test it and you have to see. But if somebody tells you that it's not going to work because it's from a tier 1 demo, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And this guy should not tell you that. Like, this guy should not talk about this type of things. Because he doesn't understand the game, obviously. But you can still watch demos from tier 2, tier 3 teams, because they also have good strats and they also have good things that you can do. So take ideas from other teams. If somebody tells you that it's not going to work because it's anti-strat, this guy is an idiot. Don't listen to him and don't really talk to him about things that are strats and stuff, because he clearly doesn't understand it. Something else you can do is you can watch your own demos, see what works and try to do that more, see what doesn't work and try to fix it. So Astralis B doesn't work for some reason, you see what the mistakes are, you see what the problems are, you try to fix it. If it's not fixable, then you just leave the strat and you don't do it anymore, if it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And another thing is, you can make ideas on your own, so you can just make executes on your own, and something else you can do, or you have to do, is to dry run the strats and try them on practice before you actually try them in the real game. So you dry run it means basically on your practice server, you are 5 people, there's nobody on the enemy side, you do the strats. So Astralis A, let's say, you call it. This guy has to molly under powers, the other guy has to flash, so you just do everything that you need to do without enemies on the server, and you see if the timings are good. So if the flashes are late, you tell him, okay, look, the flashes were late, you have to throw them a bit earlier. He's gonna be like, okay, I will know this for next time. And you try run it again, now the flashes are at perfect timing. Okay, good. Now what you have to do is, you have to play a scrim, and in that scrim you want to call Astralis A at some point and see how it works. If it works perfectly, if the timings are good, you're going to use this in the real game as well, because it clearly works. But if it doesn't work, then you have to, again, look at what the mistakes were and why it didn't work, and if it's just not a good strat, then you don't do it anymore. If you see something that can be fixed, you fix it, you go into the next scrim, you call it again, and if it works now, if you see that things are good and there are no holes in the strat, then you can do it in an actual match next time. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope this video helped you. I hope it improved you as an IGL and you learned a lot of new things. And if it did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel to not miss out on any upcoming content. Thank you for watching.